They got a bit lucky this time, didn't they?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, David, thanks for joining us. As you know, many of us would have seen yesterday post-match, so many of the players had so many wonderful positive things to say about Gareth Southgate. Jude Bellingham talked about how his relationships evolved with him over time. He's now someone you can knock on his door, have a chat with. And I guess something a lot of people don't realise about top coaches is that dynamic between player, coach, manager is so essential, and actually having an access point to your players and being able to understand them properly is so vital to getting the best out of them.
Yeah, I don't think we can underestimate the bond that has been built between Gareth Southgate and these players, past and present and even future. I'll come on to that in a bit. Over this 8 years or however long he's been in charge now, it's been a journey that has seen the national team become a source of pride and enjoyment for many players, which wasn't the case in a lot of instances before. You had people that didn't really want to go on international camps and pull out of them, and you've seen some of them talk about that since. And Gareth Southgate, despite being from a very different background to many of the players he selected, seems to have found a connection between himself, his staff, and the players, and among the players themselves, with cliques seemingly eradicated. And he's had to make difficult decisions. If you read Ollie's fantastic in-depth piece on The Athletic today, I'll never forget that squad announcement day when we were breaking stories about the likes of Harry Maguire and Jack Grealish, James Maddison the night before being left out, Marcus Rashford, some of the players that Gareth Southgate has come to rely on over the years, and then place his faith in sort of, you could say, risks or ambitious selections like Kobbie Mainoo. Definitely a success and a plus point for England in this tournament. And, we've seen players come in and be sort of integrated, like an Adam Wharton, an Anthony Gordon. Perhaps we'd like to have seen him play more in this tournament. Jude Bellingham rising to the fore. And so, it's a really difficult day to sort of pick over the bones of what's happened. A lot of frustration, a lot of what if, a lot of unfulfilled dreams and heartbreak. There are a lot of recrimination, and I've been listening to and reading all of the coverage, and a lot of animosity towards Gareth Southgate and his staff. But Gareth Southgate has put England in a position where we're actually in with a shout of winning things. Many of us grew up and saw England failing to qualify for, say, USA '94. Even when England qualified, failing to get out of group stages or failing to progress deep into the knockout rounds. Now under him, they have, reached the last two European Championship finals. They've gone far in the World Cup. They've reached a first final of any major competition on foreign soil. And now comes a really testing period where changes are going to have to be made. He's going to have to make a decision on whether he continues to USA. And I don't think it's as clear cut as many people are making out. And that's why he didn't commit one way or the other on the night. Proper discussions need to be had. There's some genuine arguments for and against. And whatever members of the public think about Gareth Southgate and fans and ultimately internally at the FA as well, those players, they seem loyal to him. And, I think with time, we will come to reflect on hopefully not this golden generation, which is a tag that hangs like a noose around the neck of every England generation, but a period in England's history where Gareth Southgate brought England up to the top and brought many players into a stage of their careers that their predecessors have not experienced.
Yeah, you spoke about what ifs for England. I guess I'm really interested in what next, and you've sort of touched on it there, David. What would that process look like after the tournament in terms of what Gareth Southgate's future might look like? Is that something he has to go away and talk to his people about and then go to the FA and have a chat with them? Because the FA will clearly have a sense of, I guess, what they want from him.
The Football Association want Gareth Southgate to continue. That was clear in the months leading up to the tournament. We saw reports emerging that there was a contract ready for him to be signed if he wanted it. It would do them no greater pleasure than to extend with Gareth Southgate. He didn't want to discuss the contract until after the tournament, which is understandable. And it was maybe quite shrewd to tie him down until December of 2024. So that, unlike with some of his predecessors, the contract ended. For whom the contract ended straight after the major tournament in the summer, they now have some time and space. Yeah, the Nations League fixtures will come around, but as soon as the dust settles on this and the pre-season gets up and running in the domestic competitions and the Premier League begins, eyes will come away from England for a period of time, and they'll have some proper discussions. Now, of course, some of those discussions will happen immediately, and you know, what I've just said may be superseded by a quick decision one way or the other. But we know where the FA stand on this. Gareth Southgate has come through their system, perhaps a little bit inadvertently after the Sam Allardyce debacle, you could say, his short reign, extreme to say the least, in charge. But he has he has absolutely immersed himself in the system, in St George's Park, in the DNA, in the pathway from the 2018 World Cup. I was out there and really felt that that glorious summer where England reached the semi-finals in Russia, and the scenes back home, and the songs for Southgate and the man in the waistcoat, and that group of players who really rose to the challenge. And then England went on, and the Euros final, and Gareth Southgate had a lot of food for thought after the World Cup in Qatar. I remember those days. We were frantically making phone calls after that defeat against France, where it seemed he'd be walking away. Then he was convinced to stay. And now we find ourselves in a similar position. I think from a public perspective, the goodwill towards him, with total respect from me towards him, is in as short a supply as it's ever been. Almost all of the discourse that I've experienced seems to be in favour of a change, to varying degrees of hostility. We saw him appallingly treated by a small number of supporters inside stadiums in Germany, with empty beer cups thrown at him, which I think is a disgrace and completely undeserved of anybody, let alone a man of his calibre. And that will have wounded him, whatever he says publicly, and the resilience that he shows in front of the cameras and to our faces. That would have really hurt him. Coming into this tournament, I felt that if he won it, he would almost certainly go on to USA, Canada, and Mexico, with the World Cup 26 being a bit of a shot to nothing, because some teams go from European Championship wins to World Cup wins, and that would be the ultimate crowning glory. And then maybe he looks to return to club management. I felt if he didn't, but gave a really impressive show of himself, maybe he would still go on to 2026. Then during the course of the tournament and some of the performances that we've all been frustrated by, and the way he was treated, I thought to myself that even if England win it, he's going to go, this is just the end, because it seems many people, irrespective of the results, which are the most important things in competitions, are just not having him. They just don't like to see the fact that England have such talent at their disposal, and it's not manifesting itself in front of our eyes. And I do get that, and there are many reasons for it. Now England are out, it's over. I've spoken to a lot of people sort of around the England picture and setup and situation. And although our instinct is maybe, yeah, he's gone now, it's over, and maybe that will be the case. Some conversations I've had point towards a lot of people, and I think this will get through and is probably already felt by many people at the FA. And sorry if this upsets people, think that he remains the best person to take England on for a few reasons. Nobody knows the current and the next generation of players better than Gareth Southgate and his staff. Somebody like Lee Carsley, the under-21 manager, is very highly rated, and some people I speak to would like to see him integrated more into the senior setup, because they know the players for the next 7 or 8 years that England are going to be relying on. Nobody has done more work on them. Nobody has worked with them. Now, you may turn around and say, a change is needed, a fresh perspective, somebody that can get England over the line. But that's a very simplistic thing to say. England have tried big name foreign managers in the past with the so-called golden generations, and that hasn't worked. What Spain have done is promote from within and seek that continuity. They've not focused on the star individuals. They've actually focused on the cohesion, the collective, the patterns of play, the style and the DNA that probably England are still lacking. And it does take time. I heard Guillaume Balaguer on the radio talking about it with Spain. There is patience required, and nobody likes that word. And then finally, in and amongst all of that, but last but not least, is the alternatives. Like, immediately people say, "Oh, go for Eddie Howe." Similar level of character and human, but maybe a more expansive, exciting coach. Well, let's see if Eddie Howe would be the pick. I think he's very highly rated. Or if he would want to leave club football at this moment in time. Graham Potter's available, and the FA have liked him for a lot of a long period of time. Does he want to do it? Does he want to go into club football? Would he be the pick? Would the fans have him any more than Gareth Southgate? Then people throw in names like Jurgen Klopp. Does Jurgen Klopp want to do it? He's already turned down the US.
He turned down the US job, didn't he? Yeah.
Approach. Would English supporters and the public be accepting of a German manager, however good Klopp is? Oh, let's take Guardiola. Well, Guardiola's Manchester City manager. No indication he wants to leave that, although he's only got a year to go on his contract, or take the England job. These things are not as simple as many people are making out, and that's why it needs a proper conversation that Mark Bullingham, as the chief executive of the FA, I presume will lead, with John McDermott as the technical director of the FA, and a small number of others, with, of course, the input of Gareth Southgate, of Steve Holland, as they did in the aftermath of Qatar, and they're going to do again now. And I don't think it would be sensible for us to prejudge a decision, because whatever we want, we don't know which way it's going to go. And my final point on all of that is that whatever we say and whatever grumblings we have about Gareth Southgate, his style, his ability to get the best out of these players, I think he has shown in every major tournament. Qatar wasn't fantastic with the exit to France, but the finals and the progress, that he knows better than us lot. Like, we're the greatest armchair critics, but he's done a bloody good job, whether people like it or not. Whether he proves to go on, we don't know, but a bit of credit and respect deserves to be put on his name.
Yeah, I mean, Ollie, based on what David said there, coming into this tournament, Gareth Southgate sort of alluded to the fact that if he didn't win, then he'd have to sort of think about what to do next. We talk about this atmosphere that's been built around the England squad in this tournament. Could that have a direct impact on how he feels about what his next steps might be?
Yeah, it can. I mean, he's been he's kept his cards very close to his chest. We, and David in particular, we've been asking all kinds of questions for months, really, but particularly in the past week, and the past weeks and the past week, building up to the final, trying to get some intel on what Southgate's plans are. And the word that's come back is that he will wait until, he was going to wait until the tournament was over. Didn't feel like the emotions of the past week were the time to make any kind of decision. He wants to sort of take a step back, try and work out how he feels, how the FA feel. I felt at various stages in the tournament like he's spoken like and acted like somebody who's made their mind up and feels they're in the final weeks of the job. I think some of his words last night where he was talking about England have some great young players. It was as if he was talking about the legacy awaiting the next manager, which was fascinating. Maybe it was just a sort of verbal tick, but I have been expecting him to sort of call it a day, win or lose last night, win or lose last Wednesday. I think 8 years in this job is remarkable. I don't think whoever comes next will do 8 years. I think he's actually stayed. I mean, we've seen what the England job has done to managers in the past. It's really worn them down, diminished them, beaten them one way or the other. I don't think the England job has particularly beaten Southgate. I think he's done really creditably. But I felt that this tournament, even going into it, I felt that this is probably his last go, because I don't think, from what he said in the past, I'm not sure he would have the energy and desire to go again. I think he has felt that it was sort of coming to the end of a cycle. So I'd be quite surprised, really, if he turns around and says, you know what, I'll stay. But I could understand why the FA would view it as the safest option for him to stay, because it's only, it's 6 weeks or something till the Nations League starts. Unlike the sort of failed campaigns of 2016, etc., where England are out by the third week of June. There's hard, if you're going to Newcastle and saying, "Oh, would we be able to speak to Eddie Howe?" And I don't know, I'm just using that as the example. I mean, they're in pre-season. The start of the Premier League season is sort of three and a bit weeks ago, three and a bit weeks away. That becomes very problematic. You'll then perhaps, you might get knocked back by Newcastle, might get knocked back by Eddie Howe. Then you're on to perhaps second or third choice. I don't take seriously at the moment the possibility of getting Klopp. I just can't see it. He'd be great, but I can't see it. So it might be the safest option just to go with to stick rather than twist. And I think people will be a bit underwhelmed by it, but I think they've also got to say, well, if that happens, I think there's also a slight sense of, well, maybe it's a sensible, safe thing to do. But I just don't think it's particularly the sensible thing for Southgate. I think he's seemed increasingly worn down the last couple of years. He's been increasingly mindful and vocal about the sort of public and media mood turning against him, a bit less patience. So I think he might just sort of go away, spend a few days talking about it, thinking about it, and then think, yeah, I'll walk away now with my head held high. And if that happens, he really can walk away with his head held high. He's done a really, really good job. Not the perfect job. We can all split hairs, nitpick, say what he should have done differently, but to me, it's by far the most impressive England manager tenure of my lifetime, and I'm 50 next year.
Ollie, I mean, look, I was watching that match thinking, Nico Williams, wow. Yamal, wow. And Rodri, player of the tournament, wow. I mean, they do have a plethora of talent at their disposal. And I think as well, it's the structural flexibility of Spain that really fascinated me. You look at the dying moments of that match, they didn't even have a recognised centre forward. Oyarzabal is a left winger, plays forward, but he's not a proper forward, yet plays like one. I mean, Spain have been incredibly impressive this tournament.
They have, and it's not. I mean, I've said a few times, I don't think in terms of the talent within the squad, I don't think it's close to the level of the 2008, 2010, 2012 team. I don't think we're going to see a sort of dominant Spain era the way we did with Xavi and Iniesta, Busquets, Alonso, etc. What an incredible generation that was. This, to me, seems like a really talented generation, but perhaps one that's been really pleasantly surprised by how things have come together here, by how some of the other big nations, notably France, notably England, haven't really performed to the expected level. So I think that'd be really good. But what really strikes me as the difference, I mean, we talk about Yamal and Williams in particular, and the quality that they've shown in a tournament. I think have they done anything that we don't think Saka and Foden and Palmer and other players are capable of? I feel England's players could have, had they gone into this tournament with real kind of wind in their sails and really hit the heights that they're capable of, they could have produced the same moments of brilliance. I mean, Saka did produce a moment of brilliance against Switzerland. Bellingham did against Slovakia. I think England players are capable of those moments. What I don't think they've proved capable of at this tournament is the same. Was it flexibility? Was that the word you used? I feel the flexibility, the intelligence, the cohesion, everything else like that, the sort of intangibles really of the game. I think that is where Spain really excelled. And Spain, they just produce really, really, really intelligent players. Technical, but also really, really intelligent. Dani Olmo, another one, never really gets much credit. Fabian Ruiz, but really, really intelligent players. England have gone from not producing technical players to producing loads and loads of really good technical players and really exciting players who could play a variety of roles and so on. But I don't feel like the sort of ability to control a game, the ability to put your foot on a ball, be composed, just always understand space, understand the rhythm of a game. I don't feel like that is something that really still doesn't seem to come naturally to England's players. Declan Rice, really good midfielder, but he's not a Sergio Busquets or a Rodri. Jude Bellingham, a fantastic, different kind of player, but again, there's a certain type of player that England lack. And I think Kobbie Mainoo has had a really, really good tournament. But you're asking so much of a 19-year-old to be the player who sort of makes up for a kind of intelligence deficit, composure deficit throughout the whole team. So I think that's the difference. It's yes, there's a sense of underperformance in the tournament. There's a question mark about tactics. There's a question mark about mood within the camp. There's a question mark about energy levels and all of that kind of thing. And I also think there's that other issue, which is about know-how, composure, having that type of player or those types of player throughout the team who can just put their foot on the ball and just dictate, be calm, turn having the ball into a period of possession. I don't think England have mastered that.